Amidst unimaginable chaos, an impossible mission begins. Find one man, Private James Ryan. Why is his life so precious? Follow this brutal journey, where every blood-soaked step unveils the true meaning of sacrifice and humanity. Be prepared, for this is a story you will never forget. And we begin the journey. An old man walks among the white graves in a military cemetery. His steps are shaky, his heart heavy. He stops at one grave. His eyes are filled with tears. The camera closes in on his eyes. Then we are transported back in time. June 6, 1944. Omaha Beach, Normandy, France. The sea is rough. The sky is gray. Dozens of landing crafts approach the shores of Normandy. Inside them, hundreds of young faces. They wear helmets, clutch weapons, and bury unspoken fears. Then, the door opens. Bang! Bullets meet them instantly. Bodies collapse. Some don't even touch the ground. Explosions rock the water and the air. The world becomes a shapeless chaos. Blood mixes with the tide. Screams cut through the wind. The seawater turned red. The bullet whizzed through the young soldier's body. They continue to move forward without further fate. Captain John H. Miller stands in the midst of it all, still moving. They crawl behind obstacles. Bullets tear into the sand around them. Some are thrown into the air by mines. But one by one, they push forward. Miller signals. His team sets charges to destroy the wire barriers. Sergeant Horvath sneaks to the right flank, guiding a small team to breach the bunker. Meanwhile, their sniper, Jackson, takes position behind metal cover, firing precise shots at enemy gun ports. Boom after boom echoes. Bullets rip through the air mercilessly, but they get closer, closer still. Finally, they reach the defensive trenches. Miller begins overtaking the enemy bunker. With his team, he keeps advancing, defeating and disabling enemies until they fall. The beach begins to calm, but the ground has already been paid for in blood. In a quiet military administration room in Washington, D.C., a military clerk opens a stack of documents from the battlefield. He types the names of fallen soldiers. The camera pans to his hand as he lowers 3 death cards in a row: Daniel Ryan, Peter Ryan, and Sean Ryan. General George Marshall sat reading the file. He heard a report about a mother, Mrs. Margaret Bixby Ryan, who had received word that 3 of her sons had been killed almost simultaneously, while a 4th son, James Francis Ryan, was missing somewhere in France. He was a paratrooper who had gone straight through the enemy lines. General George Marshall, taking a copy of Abraham Lincoln's letter to Mrs. Bixby, a mother who had lost 5 children in the war, read the letter quietly. His voice was deep and meaningful. "I have been told that you are the mother of 5 sons who have died honorably in battle. I feel I have no right to intrude upon your deep suffering." Silence filled the room. The staff just bowed. General Marshall then looked at the file in his hand. "We will find the kid. We will send a team and bring Ryan home." The highest order came down. The search for Ryan began not just a military order, but a humanitarian promise. Captain John H. Miller, the leader of Charlie Company, had just survived the hell of Omaha Beach. He was called to tactical headquarters. Then he was given a strange assignment, not to conquer a city, not to destroy a bridge, but to save one man. In a war that has cost hundreds of thousands of lives, why does one life matter so much? Captain Miller didn't ask. He just accepted. He stayed silent, then stepped out of the tent. Outside, he began to form a team. One by one, the soldiers are chosen. Technical Sergeant Mike Horvath, Miller's best friend and right-hand man, tough, loyal, and a realist. Private First Class Richard Ribin, a cynical, rough-and-tumble machine gunner with a sharp logic. Corporal Upham, a young translator who has never been to combat. An idealist raised by books, not guns. Private Caparzo, powerful, brave, but sometimes reckless. Private Mellish, a spirited Jewish-American soldier who often sees war as a form of personal revenge. Medic Wade, calm and dedicated, he is a silent savior amidst the chaos. Private Jackson, a religious sniper from Tennessee who prays before pulling the trigger. They are not superheroes. They are human beings. Puddles formed in the mud-soaked roads, casting a gray veil over everything. Endless, cold, dead. Their path cut through a broken, desolate countryside. Houses stood in ruined walls pockmarked with bullet holes, windows shattered, streets littered with rubble. And the rain. Captain Miller's squad encountered a group of paratroopers, 101st Airborne. Sheltering behind a half-collapsed building, their coats soaked, eyes tired. Miller approached. A question. Private James Francis Ryan. Have you seen him? We lost contact the night of D-Day. Some say he dropped near Corentin, but nothing solid. He could be with another unit by now. As the team entered the tight confines of the old city blocks, they moved slower, tighter. Every step deliberate. Every shadow a possible threat. In the middle of chaos, a family emerged from the rubble. A father, a mother cradling a baby, and a little girl frozen in fear. They shouted in French, begging for protection. Caparzo stepped forward, hands raised. Then, a single shot. Caparzo staggered. He hit the ground hard. His breathing grew shallow. Blood pooled beneath him. The others tried to move, but they couldn't see the shooter. No cover, no angle. Wade crawled to him, desperate. But it was too late. The wound was fatal. From the upper floor of a ruined building, a flicker. Jackson spotted it. He steadied his rifle. One shot, silence. Bang! The enemy goes down. There was no time for mourning, no time for a grave. Just quiet, and one more name. Added to the list of the fallen, they moved on, without Caparzo. In silence, in sorrow. After they were rescued by Fred Hamill from the Pathfinder unit, 101st Airborne. Ryan's whereabouts were very close, but unfortunately in the Pathfinder unit, 101st Airborne, there was no Ryan they were looking for. The team followed the direction Hamill showed until they found another small 101st post. There, they met Private Mandelson. Last I saw him in Ramel. We were assigned to defend the bridge there. Immediately, the team following the compass traveled to Ramel. On the road to Ramel, they stumbled upon a grim scene. Scattered across the clearing, the lifeless bodies of American paratrooper soldiers from the 101st Airborne. Captain Miller spotted a damaged German radar station ahead. Beneath it, tucked into the earth, was a small bunker, guarded by German soldiers. And now, a choice. Do they bypass the bunker or neutralize the threat? We need to clear that position. Suddenly, Rabin snapped. Wait, seriously, Captain? We're here to find Ryan, not start another war. We don't know how many are in there. But if we leave them, and they hit us from behind on the way back. Miller finally said in a low but powerful tone, this is about survival. If you're going to go home, let's clear the threat behind us first. The action began. Jackson positioned himself in high position. Reben and Mellish slipped in from the right flank. Horvath held a grenade ready to throw. Wade in the middle of the formation, carrying their medical bag. And boom! And then silent. In the midst of the chaos, Wade was hit. Wade down. 3 bullets lodged in his stomach. He writhed in pain. Miller and Horvath immediately crouched down. Blood soaked the ground. Upham held out the syringe with shaking hands. Wade began to shake. His breath became shallow. He muttered softly. His hands grew weak. His eyes opened, then stopped moving. Among the ruins of the bunker, a German soldier was found alive. He was one of the guards, now a prisoner. Hands on his head. Face terrified. Rabin pointed his rifle at him, breathing heavily. His eyes were bloodshot. Miller did something unexpected. Miller opened a piece of cloth, blindfolded the prisoner. He turned his body to the north, Miller told him to keep walking 1,000 steps without stopping. Reiben protested loudly. "Are you serious? He will come back and kill our troops." Miller did not turn around, just said flatly, "We are not murderers, not executioners." And in that decision, Captain Miller not only freed one life, he also risked the trust of the team that had lost so much. The prisoner walked, stumbling, slowly disappearing behind the hill. Reiben was really angry with Miller's decision. "This is crazy." Miller then said to Reiben, "If you want to go, then go. I won't stop you. I'm just sure that every person I kill only makes me further away from home." Miller then left, followed by Reiben, who changed his mind about leaving. Captain Miller and his team ran across the vast grassland toward the bridge at Rommel. In the midst of the restless grassland, Captain Miller led his troops. The sound of tanks approaching. German tanks. Boom! The tanks exploded. A tank-destroying shell emerged from the grass from an unknown source. From behind the rubble emerged 3 American soldiers, 3 from the 101st Airborne Division. They then introduced themselves, including Ryan, the Ryan they had been looking for. After a battle that drained their spirit and strength, the team finally reached Rommel, a city ravaged by combat. They found Private James Francis Ryan, along with a small group of surviving American soldiers, preparing to defend a strategic bridge from an imminent German attack. Miller, calmly yet firmly, explained their mission. He delivered the news of the deaths of Ryan's 3 brothers on various battlefields. His eyes widened in disbelief, and his body swayed slightly. Miller explained that the army had ordered them to bring him home, so that no more Ryans would fall. He offered Ryan to return immediately to headquarters, to safety, far from this battlefield. However, Ryan raised his head. His eyes were red, but there was a resolute determination shining through. He glanced at his comrades around him, the soldiers who had been with him, sharing meals, fighting, and protecting each other. In a slightly hoarse voice, Ryan replied, "I'm not going, sir." After consulting with his team, Miller made the decision to stay and help defend the Rommel Bridge from the German attack. They were too few to hold out, but they planned to slow the enemy's advance and buy time until reinforcements arrived. They set up traps, mines, and positioned snipers. They began working tirelessly, utilizing every remaining structure that could provide cover. Upham, skilled in mapping, helped identify strategic points. They placed teller mines on the main road leading to the bridge, concealing them under debris and gravel. Smoke grenades and improvised explosives were prepared to create chaos and obscure the enemy's vision. They positioned M1919 Browning heavy machine guns at points that could deliver deadly crossfire. Mellish and Reiben prepared behind sandbag barricades, their rifles ready to fire. Ryan and his troops joined in, following Miller's instructions with soldierly discipline. Then the silence broke, and from a distance, the roar of engines approached. The inferno was about to begin. Suddenly, the rumbling of engines and the clatter of tank tracks began to be heard from a distance, growing clearer by the moment. The German forces had arrived. Lines of Panzer IV tanks and hundreds of Wehrmacht infantry emerged from behind the smoke and dust, a force far outnumbering the defending American soldiers. The battle began. Every shot, every explosion was a struggle for precious seconds. The battle erupted with brutal intensity. German tanks fired high explosive projectiles, demolishing the remaining structures and shaking the ground. German infantry advanced, firing their automatic rifles relentlessly. Captain Miller led the defense with terrifying calm, giving quick and effective orders. "Fire! Fall back! Change position!" he shouted. The American soldiers returned fire fiercely. Jackson in the church tower was an angel of death. Every shot hit its target, bringing down German machine gunners and squad leaders. His sniper bullets sliced through the air with deadly precision. Amidst the chaos, the sacrifices began. One by one, the lights of hope began to fade. As time passed, casualties mounted. A Teller mine successfully detonated one of the panzer tanks, providing a brief morale boost for the defenders. However, other tanks continued to advance, crushing barricades and rolling over anything in their path. Jackson was shooting at the enemy from the top of the tower. A panzer tank aimed fire at him and made him down. Private Mellish became engaged in a horrific hand-to-hand struggle. After running out of ammunition, he tried to fight a German soldier with his bayonet. However, the German soldier was stronger. Upham, who was on the floor below, heard Mellish's screams. He ascended the stairs slowly, paralyzed by overwhelming fear. He couldn't move, couldn't shoot, couldn't help. He could only stand there, witnessing the horror, tears streaming down his face. Sergeant Horvath, Miller's loyal right-hand man, tried to hold back the German infantry onslaught. However, he was shot in the chest by machine gun fire and fell. He looked at Miller one last time before taking his last breath. In the midst of the storm, the leader falls. A promise now resting on the shoulders of a young soldier, Captain Miller continued to fight, trying to organize the remainder of his troops. He saw the German tanks approaching and realized the battle was almost over. He tried to throw an improvised explosive at a tank. However, as he moved, a shot from a panzer tank struck a nearby wall, sending shrapnel flying and knocking him down. Miller was severely wounded, covered in blood. He lay on the ground, gravely injured. Just then, a roaring sound filled the sky. Allied P-51 Mustang aircraft appeared, firing on the remaining German tanks, destroying them with rockets and machine gun fire. Reinforcements had arrived, but too late for Miller and many of his comrades. Private Ryan found the dying Miller. He knelt beside him, trying to stop the bleeding. Miller, gasping for breath and with dimming eyes, looked at Ryan. With his remaining strength, he clutched Ryan's hand tightly and whispered, "James earned this, earn it." A final message, a burden of hope, a legacy. The camera then shows Ryan standing in front of Miller's body. Slowly, Ryan's sad face changes to the old face, shown at the beginning of the scene at the funeral. It turns out that Ryan lived a long life to give birth to many descendants. From all his life, there were many struggles, and the one he remembered most throughout his life was Captain John Miller. From this film, we learn how valuable every human life is. The mission to save one soldier, James Ryan, in the midst of a terrible war, illustrates that no price is too high for one life. This highlights the inherent value of each individual and how important it is to collectively protect it, even at great sacrifice. The death of Captain Miller, with his last words, "Earn this," is a powerful reminder of the burden and responsibility that accompanies the sacrifice of others.